Cameras are go, and audio is a go. Welcome, Liam.
Well, happy to be here.
I'm so glad you were able to come through, man. This was not something we were expecting to be able to do for quite a while. Our story is a fun one. We soft met,
Yeah.
a year and a half ago, playing video games.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, and we found over time that there was a lot more in common, and we had a lot more to say to one another, and I think our relationship just kind of grew as a result of it. We've started talking about shit that actually matters and not just, fighting space monsters
That's right.
and hanging out with our squad. But this was a really impromptu trip for yourself. And what happened is that you came into a city that was relatively close by, and I said, hey, I have a crazy, wild, hilariously impromptu idea.
Mm-hmm.
How likely is it that this could happen? What's the likelihood that this could actually play out? And you messaged me back, I think 2 days later, like, hey, green light.
Yeah, let's go.
We're Gucci. Let's make it happen. And sure enough, here you are.
Sure enough.
So you just mentioned something that we both laughed about, which is that our relationship up until now, up until yesterday, has been not seeing each other at all, let alone being face to face with one another and only hearing each other through headphones.
Right.
And now we're getting both of those things
at the same
all
time.
In one shot. Yeah. So I know that it was an inevitability. This was definitely going to happen at some point. I just didn't think we were going to be sharing a meal with each other, let alone sharing 3, 4, 5, 10 like we have today.
Right.
This quickly. So I'm so glad that you're here. There's tons and tons of stuff that you and I can talk about. I think most of our conversations have gone the way of what we're going to be discussing today.
Right.
Whether we were playing games or not. We often kind of traveled down this little path, and we've more than often spent hours and hours and hours talking about the shit that's most important to us, the stuff that scares us, excites us, everything in between. So to be able to share some of that, I think, is going to be really valuable. A lot of what I think you're going through and a lot of what you've been going through, and then more excitedly what you're moving towards, is something that I think a lot of people will be able to relate to. So it's important for us to share it, and I think your story is loaded. Can't wait.
It's exciting, dude. There's much stuff.
Yeah, man. So let's start with the very, very beginning. So you are, by formal education, you're a chemist.
Yes. So I have a associates in pre-professional sciences from Carl Albert State College in Poto, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And then I moved on to get my bachelor's in chemistry from Oklahoma State University.
Jeez.
And I got that July 27.
July of this past year?
Yeah, I'm talking like a few months ago.
You just finished up. I remember, we got to rewind for a second. I remember not, for whatever reason, with our squad, the people that we play games with all the time, it never occurred to me, and I never really thought about the other side of their life. I only thought of the leisure side of their life, not the professional side of their life. So when we first started talking about this was something that piqued my interest and just grabbed hold of me immediately. And now being able to talk to you about it face to face is something that's next level. I got to know, man, why did you pick chemistry? Because this was not something that I would have ever pegged. I thought you were going to go into professional services on the business side or something like that. But seeing you lean so heavily into science is something that really caught me off guard and excited me.
Yeah, so honestly, I was always like the superstar student. Like, I never studied. I would always nail a test, always nail homework. Minimal effort, right?
Yeah.
And then it was, eighth grade when we started getting to like, hey, this is chemistry. And like everything clicked constantly.
In terms of you understanding it all?
Right, yeah. Like we looked at a periodic table and said, these columns mean this, these rows mean this. And I was like, it makes total sense. And because of this, we know this, right? We know X, Y, Z. And given X, Y, Z, we can figure out 1A, 1B, 1C, right? Mm-hmm. And so that really piqued my interest at first because, like, as a little kid, as a young adult, I was like, I want to do something engineering, right? Because those guys get paid and they do cool stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, wow, I'm really good at this chemistry thing. It was just like really good at it. And if you're good at something, you want to do it, right? Mm-hmm. Enjoying the success. And I was like, I want to be a chemical engineer. That's what I want to do. Then I got to the point where I was like, I want to be a petroleum engineer because those guys get the big bucks and they're doing real stuff that matters in the world, you know? And then I got to, I guess, circling back to junior year of high school, I was in my high school chemistry class, my class of like 17 people, And I think the lowest grade I got on any assignment or test was like a 97. out of 100.
Yeah.
I mean, like nailing it, right? And also, my teacher, his philosophy was, I'm going to give you the info. You can take it or not. If you don't want to, all right, so be it. You're going to fail on the test. And I was like, well, I want to be good at it because I like succeeding, right? And so I applied myself constantly. And that's something I've noticed in today's society is people don't care to apply themselves, right? And obviously this is a very small, minimal thing. We're talking about a chemistry test. And so I would be nailing it, right? And then I got to junior college, and I took Gen Chem 1, Gen Chem 2. And I think the second semester I was taking like microbiology, physics, calc. And I was like, yeah, Gen Chem's my easiest class. Like, what? Everyone, like, I became the chemistry tutor, right?
Was this supposed to be almost the other way, like where Gen Chem was supposed to be one of the more difficult classes?
Right, yeah. Like, everyone struggled with Gen Chem. Like, it was
Okay.
always hard. And I was like, it makes sense. What do you mean, right? Because we're talking about, this big table, and they've got all these numbers on them, and you get to flip the numbers around, use a little bit of algebra 1, and then you can find out more info, right? Talking like, it was just, I don't even know how to say it other than it clicks, right? It just makes too much darn sense.
Right.
And so I was like, I think I want to major in chemistry because like
This is when you were still doing the associate side of things.
correct.
Okay, got
Correct,
it.
yeah. And so also at that point, I was kind of torn between chemistry and like the medical field, and then something engineering, right? But engineering, our buddy Kobus, right?
Oh
He,
yeah, Kobus. Shout out Kobus.
So he's doing the engineering stuff, right? And
Okay.
he made the comment because we were talking about Destiny and talking about stats, and I was like, wow, you like really have to dig into this if you want to get stats a certain way.
Right.
And I was like, this is almost like calculus, and he said, no, calculus is easy. And I was like, I don't know what you're smoking, but I want some, right? Because I took calc. I took calc 1, calc 2, and engineering physics 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
That stuff blows.
Is it just?
It's hard.
It just wasn't. Oh, okay. So I was gonna say it wasn't quite as natural as your experience with chem.
Right. So I remember one day I was sitting there in calc 2, and we're doing integrals, and I watched my professor fill up the board once, go to the next board. I mean, like, just keep trucking, not even skipping a beat, right? Wipes off the first board, fills it up again. Same problem.
Yeah.
Fills it up again. And then goes to the next board, same thing, fills it up again and gets the answer. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm over it. Like, I've lost interest.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, engineering's not it. So I was like, I'll do the medical thing, right? Get the chemistry degree, and then go to med school. So then I went to Oklahoma State, right, in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And then I've taken, I think, 11 chemistry courses, 11 unique chemistry courses.
Right.
And I got through probably number 7. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
And this was at the bachelor level.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my spring of my junior year, which also other things going on, right, probably factored into it.
Yeah.
But like all the love and the joy just got sucked right out of it.
Wow.
It was no fun. I did not enjoy it. Also, too, you have the issue at the Division I level of teachers of being of a certain political affiliation,
Right.
a certain lifestyle, like.
And I'm guessing that starts showing in their lectures and showing in their, not just in their lectures, but even in their personality and their teaching style.
Right, and to not go off on too much of a tangent, right?
Yeah.
Like having your mask below your nose. I mean, like you're just sitting there, like I just took a drink of water and I pulled it back up.
Yeah.
And it fell. And I'm getting dirty looks by the professor. Seriously? Like, come on. We're here for an education, not for you to look at what's on my face.
Yeah.
Right? And it just, I don't know, bad taste in my mouth. And then it just constantly it just kept deteriorating.
I was gonna say bad taste in your mouth, literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively. Like, I mean, I just remember one day, this was my senior year. And I was sitting in the class was called Bio and Organic Chemistry.
Okay. Inorganic chemistry.
Life, not life chemistry.
Nice.
Right. So
That double negative though, huh?
right. So no, it's single negative.
Is it a single negative?
Life, not life chemistry.
It is a single negative.
Come on,
Well,
no?
well played. Well, I mean, hey man, you're the chem major.
Yo, that's English. What do you mean?
Okay, man. Brown.
Okay. Okay. You're Canadian. What do you mean?
I am Canadian indeed.
Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so blood cells, right? The things that keep you alive, right? So how they carry oxygen is there's a little iron ion in there inside your red blood cell, and that's what attaches to the oxygen in your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So it circulates into your lungs, grabs the oxygen, and ships it to whatever needs it, right?
Right.
That's what that class was about. Is these metalloproteins, be it iron or something else, right? And we spent 16 weeks on it. But I remember sitting there and my professor, who, it was like she'd never taught a class before. Like I literally just said it, but she would always say and
Mm-hmm.
Constantly. It was like she didn't know what she was doing.
Right.
And
This is during lessons you're talking about.
Right. This is a 4,000 level class.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone in there is a chemistry major. They're about to graduate and go do whatever it may be.
Right.
We don't need somebody that doesn't know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just remember I was there for 5 minutes. She was talking, and I just saw all the fucks I gave hit the floor. And I was just like,
I was not expecting it to take that much of a turn.
I mean, I literally thought that to myself. I looked at the floor, and I went, there's all
There's
the
all the fucks I gave.
There they are, right there. And I was like, med school probably isn't wise. We're talking about 4 years of the hardest schooling in the world when I can barely make myself go through a 4,000 level course
Yeah.
or want to care. So that's when things started to change as to like, well, what the heck am I going to do with my life? Because like that was the plan from way back, was going on to a graduate level and getting a master's or a doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I have a bachelor's and I have zero desire to get a master's or a doctorate now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so total paradigm shift,
Right.
right? Because like when I spoke with my stepdad, and I told him this, and he was like, "You've been wanting to do that since you were a kid," and I was like, "Yeah, but I don't now."
Yeah. You got a little bit of a closer look and had to reevaluate.
Mm-hmm. And then also too, kind of, it's definitely different. Because also too, we're talking about chemistry. We were talking about spin states eventually, and I was like, we're talking about you have an atom, and then you're talking about the smallest part of the atom, and then you're talking about the smallest part of the smallest part of the smallest part, and the direction it's going.
And
the
these are not things you cared about.
No, I did not care at all, man. Like, It was definitely lost my interest. I will say that.
I'd say on the bright side, though, it's better that you saw this when you saw it rather than going significantly deeper in and feeling like, for whatever reason, it was too late to turn back or too late to course correct.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. It's because now, too, and something that was explained to me, I want to say I was in like 7th grade, 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you draw a timeline of your life from 0 to 66, which is the average retiring age, or at least at that time. Draw a line at 18 and 22. And you see, you have your line here. Well, here's 18 and 22. The decisions you make here affect here.
Yeah, big time.
Right? We're talking about a quarter, or a third, really, affecting 2/3.
Yeah.
And then also, too, like...
And even then, that third, it's 4 years within that third of your life. So it's 4 years actually affecting the next potentially
40.
35, 40, yeah.
Also, to the people you meet in that time frame.
Yeah.
Like right now, I met you. We're going to know each other for a long time,
Yeah.
Like, a lot of very important decisions and things are happening at this stage in my life, right? Which is kind of segues into our next topic about going from college to the business world, being in the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very much, there's some things that to get in them, you have to plan this and preface this at like 16.
Right.
Like you have to start there to get into certain things at 23 to 24, right? It's one of those things of like, well, I've made that mistake. And also too, even if you didn't, it's the people you know, not what you know, right? You've heard that phrase. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult too, because like I have a chemistry degree and, you know, people say you can do anything with that. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to do. Mm-hmm. They can say, well, you can do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to do this, 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 and this, right? So it is hard too, because going back to being in school, I remember being the superstar kid, like never had to study, always got A's on everything. I remember one time in 4th grade, I got a B on a test and I cried. Like I was that kid, dude.
Yeah.
Because, and the thing is too, like I wasn't even like mad at the teacher, I wasn't mad at the stuff, I was mad at myself.
Right. You expected more of you.
Right. Like if I'm going to do something, I expect to be number one. If I'm not number one, I better be number 2. Mm-hmm. If not, we're going to have a problem. Mm-hmm. It's just the expectations I set for myself, which is unrealistic, you know?
I don't know. I think I'd almost challenge you and I'd say I don't think it's unrealistic. Perfection is an impossibility. Excellence is very attainable. Mm-hmm. And if you're sitting here and you're saying, I want to be number 1 or at the very worst, number 2, you're gunning for excellence.
Right.
So I don't think it's something that's out of the cards. Mm-hmm. If anything, you'll look back and say, if you hadn't put that effort in, I think you'd be more upset with yourself for not having put the effort in than you would be if you ended up hitting the second spot on whatever list you wanted to be on, or in whatever capacity you wanted to kind of be there. So yeah, I would only challenge you in the way that I would say, I think that's probably where your drive is coming from. And your continued success, I think, is going to come from that as well. It's just your dedication to pursuing excellence. It's a good, it's definitely a good feat to be pursuing.
Right. Well, so prime example, right? And this is something I'm afraid of in the future, right? Say I dig into this career, say this current job, right? And I get 10 years down the line and I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah.
Right. So in college at Oklahoma State, I worked at Texas Roadhouse for 18 months.
This is just like a bar and grill?
Oh, you don't have them up here?
We don't have them up here, man.
Oh my. So it's a chain steak restaurant.
Okay.
Like what they do is steak, like steak, potatoes, beer, right? Ice cold beer, legendary margs, hand-cut steaks, fall off the bone ribs, made from scratch sides, made from scratch dressings.
Straight America.
Yeah, that's actually story points right there that I just listed off.
Okay. From the days of serving.
Yeah, dude, like they drill it into your brain. And I think I forgot one. I think there's 7.
Those 6 sounded delish.
Oh, they're good. Don't get me wrong. Like, but you're talking about a guy that's like lived on a ranch the last few years, raised, wrestling steers and cutting nuts, right? Yeah. That's what I did. And I drove T-post. I drove a lot of T-post, right? Fantastic. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Shoulders loved me, right?
I bet they did.
Yeah, dude. Baby-faced adult shoulders, right? We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, of course.
Going from doing that to working at a zip line, like, I have a CPR certification, high rope certification, right? I have an associate's degree, and I don't even know how to carry a tray.
Right.
Right? I've carried a lot of trays now. But going from literally knowing nothing, right? I'm in my training, and I'm like, talk to me like I have no clue what I'm doing, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so that specific Roadhouse is big on like pushing sales, right? Because I mean, that's what they want. They're there for dollar signs, and I'm there for my tip, right? So if I say I get, I sell 2 people a $50 dinner, right? Well, I get $5 worth of add-ons. If you say 20% tip, that's an extra few dollars that goes in my pocket, and I get to go home with, right? Do that X number of nights, it adds up, of course.
Yeah.
And so I made it a goal to, like I was talking about earlier, the excellence thing.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do something, I'm going to be darn good at it. I go from a guy that has no clue what he's doing in August. In December, I'm training other people how to do my job, right? Again, having no clue what I'm doing. Not long after that, I become a bartender. And I remember when I got hired, and I said, "Hey, I turned 21 in a few months. I want to be behind the bar." And the owner looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We only let the best of the best back there." Deal.
Challenge accepted. Yeah,
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. I see you, and I raise you.
I see you, right? You know, it was all right. It's like the, you know, if I ask you to jump, you say how high, right?
That was
Only
it.
the best of the best. All right, I will beat the definite article best of the definite article best. And I did that, right? And then if you look, so it's always they can print out this big spreadsheet of like how many smothers, which is mushrooms and onions on your steak, loads, you know, loading mashed potatoes or baked potatoes or sweet potatoes, which is add-ons, right? They have all the numbers of how many upsells you get.
Right.
I was in the top 3 every time,
Nice.
right? Out of like 90 people,
Consistently.
right? Of people that have been doing this for years,
Yeah.
and I'm beating them. Because that's me, you know, I got to
that
compete.
baby face moneymaker
You know, also too, flirting with guys' wives kind of works sometimes.
kind of works sometimes. he
Yeah,
says.
you know, like the Karens of the world.
Yeah, of course.
So, for example, right?
We all know the Karens of the world.
Gosh. So, these 2 old couples, and it was clearly like the women were the pants in the relationship. The husbands are like, "Yes, honey, whatever you want. I'm gonna go outside and do something, so I'm gonna be away from you," right?
Great. Really, really healthy relationships.
Right, beautiful, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they're all in their 60s.
Productive, loving,
Right,
healthy.
right.
Yeah.
All the kids are out of the house.
yeah, yeah.
And so I walk up, you know, welcome to Texas Roadhouse. My name's Liam. Taking care of you guys tonight. Can I start you guys off with ice cold beer, legendary margarita? They were like, immediately, we all want water. Yes, ma'am, right away, ma'am. Walk off, get 4 waters, come back. Hey, we're already ready to order if you want. And I was like, I'm not going to argue with you. Yeah, well, if you argue with us, you're going to lose. Or no, what was it? Yeah, that's probably a bad idea.
These were 2 Karens, you said?
2 Karens. Yeah,
Okay.
it was, yeah, that's probably a bad idea. You know, not arguing with them.
Right.
And I said, yeah, because you're going to lose. And I looked at him just like I am right now.
You said that they're.
Yeah, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Gave me $20.
As a tip.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
They liked it, you know.
So they can't fuel their own happiness off of things that are healthy interactions with people. They need a little
need
bit
the
of toxicity.
yeah.
They need that toxicity.
Right. But going into the time when I was dating the blonde one, right, the pieces,
Yeah.
I started hating my job.
Wow.
I hated going to there, from there.
Was she also working there? Is that part of
No.
where this was? Okay.
No. I just hated being there. I hated everything about it. Like all the time. Like you know, I can probably tell like how people like their steak by looking at them. Like you're okay.
Yeah, actually, live and interactive. Lay it on me, baby. What do you think?
Medium rare.
I mean, yeah.
Depends on the mood.
It's not so much that it depends on the mood, so much as it depends on the cut.
Right.
That's where I would. The mood part of it, I guess it's a little bit of a factor, but it's mostly what kind of a cut is it.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. Medium, easy. Leaning on medium well.
No. She's like, well done, man.
What?
We have a guest. We have a little bit of a of a guest today, and so Liam's trying his hand there as well.
Wow. I figured he'd rubbed off on you a little bit.
No, she had decided this long before, man. I think she had made it clear. I think it was one time, like at a restaurant or something. She had said, "No, well done, right the way through." And I think I had made it myself, or I had made myself a steak or something. And I did it like I had cooked it perfectly that day. We're talking, it was just the right level of pink, even, flawless, right through the center, throughout the entire thing. And she was just like, "Nope, can't do it." I was like, what are you talking about? I overdid what I normally would for this, and it's perfect, and it's delicious. Just wasn't having it, man. Dark, just fully cooked, right the way through.
I can see your traps getting larger and more defined
From
right
carrying
now.
this
From carrying
relationship
the
on my
relationship.
shoulders, right? Yeah, exactly. You get it, man. You get it.
Oh, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I don't know you.
Friendship
Jeez.
over.
Oh. But
anyway, so you're saying you
I
got to the
hated my
point
job.
where you got so good at what you were doing that you could what someone's order might have been, and now complete 180 of that was that you just weren't enjoying it anymore.
Just like the challenge was over, like I'd gotten the same experience so many times over. I was like, I'm tired
It was
of this.
mundane.
Right. And it didn't help too with that management structure. They so like when we called it the floor, right? So if you're just typically serving, like I said, I'm top 3, right? And the other 2 were managers. Fun fact.
Nice.
And they're like constantly on my butt about doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, of all the people here, you should leave me alone.
Right.
Like, I don't need help. If I need you, I'll come get you.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, if they saw, and of course I don't know them, I'm only speaking to this from, trying to look at the silver lining of it all. I imagine that if you're a manager and you have a top performer, you want to push them to continue getting better. And granted, I hear the validity in what you're saying, where maybe that same energy could have been better put towards supporting someone who might not have necessarily been on their A game.
Right.
But at the same time, if someone's on their A game and you can get them to S tier, I mean, there's an argument to be had as to
true.
It might have felt from your perspective and from your experience, it might have felt like they were on your ass, but in reality, what they were trying to do was help you level up more so than you already had in the role. So I'm not sure what that dynamic might have been like, but that's something to keep in mind.
That's true, and it's something that's crossed my mind too. But also too, I was to the point where I hated the actual task, the actual job.
So hold on, we got to rewind for a sec. Was part of this lack of enjoyment now coming from some sort of emotional strife that was born out of your relationship with the girl at the time?
No, this was when we were in a happy relationship.
Oh.
Everything, like we were talking about earlier, picture perfect. Like you couldn't, storybook, right? Everything's exactly how it should be.
Right.
Except for the fact I hated my job.
Yeah.
But
so you're saying that was independent of the relationship?
Right.
Okay.
But I will say too, more to your point, and you're probably more right about this than I am. So not long after I quit, they promoted 2 servers to manager.
Okay.
I guarantee, like, not to toot my own horn, but I know I would have been, if I was still there, I would have been promoted to manager.
Yeah, they would have moved you up.
Right, like, you have a top 3 performer, why not?
Yeah.
Right? But circling to the final point, right, I want to do the excellence thing, right? And I achieved that. And then I started feeling like I was plateauing, and then I started hating it. And also people just being plain rude, people like you
Patrons, you're talking.
Right, yeah, just being rude to you. And then people like, you give them a great experience, they have a great time, and they leave you no tip.
Right.
It's like, I'm working for $2.13 an hour. But the thing is, based on my other tables, I'm going to make over minimum wage. I literally did that work for you. It cost me money.
Yeah.
Because, 3% of our sales for the night, we tip out to...
Wait staff, or not wait staff, but back of house and everything like that.
To the busboys and the hosts.
Yeah.
Or hostesses.
Yeah.
So, like, it literally cost me money to serve you. Which is not ideal, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to bust my tail for an hour for you and pay money. That's backwards.
So this is what you meant when you referenced earlier that the pay structure was a little bit off?
No, the management structure.
Oh, management structure was off. Okay.
So when I was on the floor, I had a manager on my butt. But when I worked behind the bar, the managers were my best friends.
Right.
But I'm there for 2 extra hours making the same money with way more responsibilities.
Behind the bar, you're talking.
Correct.
Got it.
Because I have to take care of, my regulars, the people I want to come back all the time. The actual bar top itself. I have 2 tables, and I have to make drinks for the whole store.
Right.
I have another bartender helping me. That's a lot of irons in the fire, right? And, we have a ticket machine that's constantly printing off tickets saying, hey.
Need this, and it just never stops.
Right, and some of these, sometimes pouring a beer, right? That takes, 8 seconds?
Yeah.
But making some of these mixed drinks, that takes time, right? So I have all this to do, and it's chaos, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But so I eventually quit. So I think I've told you this before. I went to bed without a job, woke up without a girlfriend.
Yeah, all in the span of a really, really short period.
But I remember on the radio a couple days later, I think I got like Panda Express or something. And my phone wasn't working, so I had the radio on. This guy says, if your spirit leaves the building, your ass should too.
Yeah.
Like, if you do not care, you don't enjoy, you are not mentally and emotionally invested in your work, why are you there? you know?
That's a gem. If your spirit has left the building, then your ass should too.
Yes, sir.
It stuck with you, didn't it?
It did. Because, I mean, like, you're helping nobody. You're not helping yourself because you're unhappy,
Yeah.
right? Because you're not feeding your spirit, you're not feeding your soul. You know, you're feeding your pocketbook or your wallet, right?
But at what cost?
At what cost, right?
Yeah.
You're not helping the business because you're not giving 100%. I mean, like, it's physically impossible. And then you're not helping the customer, whoever that may be, because you're not giving your 100%.
Your service level is just not there.
You're helping nobody.
Yeah.
You are hurting everybody by being there.
This is a wildly profound level of awareness, especially coming from an experience that was something you loved so much, and like it was a 180. But I feel like the lesson that came out of it was something that made all of it
I
wildly
leveled up.
worth it. Yeah, you
Leveled
did
up.
level up. Yeah.
I leveled up twice in 3 months.
Not a bad place to be, man.
Oh, it hurt.
Well, it's supposed to. How can
Right.
you level up without there being some kind of wild pain?
Right.
So it's good that I'm guessing you would have felt a crazy, crazy level of discomfort and unsuredness and all these different things, but anything worth fighting for is going to have those innately built into them. You can't expect an experience to push you forward if it's something that you're feeling really, really comfortable with. That just doesn't make any sense. There's a disparity between reality and your expectation if that's what you're thinking.
Right.
So
right.
in this case, if this was painful and it hurt and you said it best, you went to bed without a job and you woke up without a girlfriend kind of thing. Good. The world has a really funny way of waking you the fuck up, and sometimes it takes a combination. It takes a dynamic duo of cocktails to really hit you. And
What's that one song? It's like from like 2012. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
something
Stand
like
a little taller.
that. Yeah,
Something stupid.
sure. But we say this in jest, but there's a lot of truth to it, right?
It's true. It really is. And also too, leveling up like that, and then trying to get into, I don't want to say so much specifically the corporate world, but just, I mean, being in the workforce and, making good money and doing something that feeds your soul, right?
Yeah.
It's hard in this day and age because, again, it's not who you know, it's what you know.
Right. Actually,
So-
I'd argue that it's both now, more so than ever. Even for myself going through a mini transition, and I'll touch on this really, really briefly, but even for myself going on a mini transition, I prepared a resume for the first time in 7 years. And it felt really, really weird, but it felt really, really awesome because I'm looking back now at what my resume was 7 years ago versus what it is today. I don't give a shit about what the resume was before, but I'm hella fucking proud of what it is now.
Right.
And I look at this and I say, for all of the applications that I can submit, for all of the job apps that I could put through to companies that I would love to work with, they'll never get me nearly as far as someone either on the inside or with a connection on the outside kind of thing who can say, hey, you should talk to so-and-so. So that's the who you know part of it. And then the what you know part of it is when you actually get an interview. And so I do feel like I would disagree with, only to add clarity to what you just said, where I don't think it's so much a who you know versus what you know. I think it's a combination of both, way more than it has been ever before. Before, I think you could submit a job app and it wouldn't hurt too much to go through that process. Now I feel, I'd argue that unless you're a developer, and when I say developer, I'm talking someone who has the proficiency with, for example, a programming language or multiple programming languages, or an engineer, or someone who's coming from any of the STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and math, you're probably hard pressed to get an interview unless you know somebody.
Yes, exactly. So we can touch on my experience with a business we're going to leave unnamed.
Yeah. Because now you've transitioned from going, I shouldn't say going, but rather you've transitioned from being in a workplace and being in a role, and I don't mean this disparagingly, but I'm rather just saying I think that was more of a means to an end for yourself while you
Right.
were transitioning, while you were getting through school, while you were deciding where you wanted to take your career on a more long-term basis.
So
Transitioned into something more real.
the reason I took that job was I can go to class all day. I'll work for, I say a few hours. I'll work from 4 to midnight,
Yeah.
put, $150 in my pocket, wake up and do the same thing tomorrow. Right. That was the reason for that. Again, a means to an end. Like, I got to pay rent. I got to feed myself.
Yeah.
I have to pay my truck payment. I have to make my phone bill. I have to make my insurance. That's another thing, too. As an adult, you have to pay for everything.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize it until, I was furnishing my apartment. So, what I physically own, that I would put in the living room, a TV and a recliner.
That's all you really need.
That's all I need, right? But like toilet paper,
Cleaning
towels,
supplies, everything.
cleaning supplies,
Yeah,
paper
yeah.
towels, plates, forks, like stuff that you just like dismiss as a kid growing up.
I got another little mantra for you, by the way. In addition to the, if your soul has left the building, your ass should too. Here's another one. A man doesn't become a man until he realizes nobody's coming to save him.
Exactly.
And when you internalize that, and it's not to internalize it from a place of negativity, but rather to internalize it from a place of hyper awareness and just being grounded in the reality of the fact that if you want to move mountains, you're moving them yourself. And I'm a big believer in, if you want to go fast, go by yourself.
Right.
If you want to go far, bring your squad. But they're not going to save you. You're not going to save them. You have to work in tandem with one another, or with however many of you there are. You have to work in tandem, understanding and realizing that the shit that you have to deal with in your life, it's up to you to resolve it. It's up to you to carry it. So, I said in jest, these traps are from carrying a relationship. But in reality, it's not a relationship external to you. It's a relationship that you hold nearest and dearest for the entirety of your life. It's the relationship you have with yourself.
Right.
And the more you shit on yourself for the bad omens or this or that, whatever it might be, the unfortunate reality of a situation or the unfortunate outcome of a particular situation, the more you dabble in wallowing about it, the less you can move forward, the less you can learn from it, the less you can share, those lessons, the less you can share those lessons with people around you, and the less you'll just gain from it overall.
Right. That's right. So to work off of the who you know and what you know. So the business we're going to leave unnamed at one time. Currently, it is not because of COVID. Fortune 500 company. I had a connection who happened to be my stepfather, was the VP of one of the 4 or 5 VPs they have in this company, right?
Okay.
So I know him, and basically one day in May I said, hey, do you guys have internships? Like, I really swallowed my pride because I was like, I'm not going to use that to get a job.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use him. But I was to the point where I was like, do you have internships? He said, let me make a couple phone calls.
This was your stepdad? Yeah.
I'll get back with you tomorrow. I get a text the next day. Hey, I spoke with the president. He wants you to come to our corporate headquarters and do a few interviews.
Cool.
We're most likely going to offer you a job, not an internship. And I was like, whoa.
Big leagues.
Okay, all right, we're here.
Yeah.
I go do the internship or do the interviews, and then I spoke with him the following day, and he was like, "Yeah, you convinced them that you're pretty good at what you do. You convinced them. You at least think that you can appear that you know what you're talking about." I was like, "All right, cool. Who I know got me in the door. What I know got me to a second interview."
Yeah.
So they flew me out to one of their plants to interview with people that I would be working with day to day, right?
The team.
The team, like my day to day coworkers.
Yeah.
And I was doing a quality assurance role, basically saying this was a food production plant, right?
Okay.
I actually had to sign a NDA.
Before you got there.
Well, when I got in the door,
Oh, right,
it's
right.
like, hey, you have to sign this and you can't talk about it. And I was like, okay, right, sign the paper. And I'm talking with people, one who's going to be my direct supervisor, about assuring that certain products got to lethality, right? That, basically all the bad bacteria is dead, right? When our normal processes fail,
Okay.
right? Say the temperature gauge went off, but it's always set at the same temperature and it's always run at the same time.
This is for some perishable good or something like that.
Correct.
Right.
I'm trying to be as vague as possible.
Yeah, of course.
And that was going to be my job, was to prove it in another way. So I got to be creative, problem solving, critical thinking, while also using my chemistry and microbiology background. So I didn't have an official minor, but every class that I didn't take that I took that was not chemistry was microbiology based.
Right.
Right.
And this was more heavily,
The microbiology stuff.
so more of the skill set that you learned there is what was applicable here.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. Who I knew got me in the door. What I knew got me through the interview. I was not hired.
Okay.
And we talked about this before.
Yeah.
Because I was not engaged.
These were their words.
I was not engaged during the interview process.
Right.
And I was like, well, that is such a cop-out. Because the night before, I spent the entire night in the airport, laying on the floor. I slept for an hour.
Because the flights were everything was delayed, right? I think
Everything
at
was
that point.
delayed. I couldn't get the rental car.
Yeah.
Hotel's an hour away.
Because I was going to say, because you had to fly into wherever you had to fly and then drive to where you needed to be. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, so the
Were
rental place...
they were aware of this?
Yeah, I told them, I said, hey guys, I'm sorry, I had a really rough night. I didn't get any sleep.
Yeah.
And so like they kind of got the story, and then of course they talked to each other. Mm-hmm. Well, during the interviews, they say, hey, I heard you had a rough night. Yeah, I did. What happened? Well, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. So why this company? Well, I made a phone, very humbly, I made a phone call to my stepdad. Hey, you guys have internships available. That got me here. I had 6 interviews that day. Every single interview, I got those 2 questions.
Why this company and what got you here?
Because the first person asked it and said, hey, this is so-and-so's stepson.
So it just went right up the chain. Right.
But I was not engaged, even though I'm awake for 26 hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is such a joke. That makes me not want to work for corporate America.
Yeah. See, it's this delicate balance because I look at it and I say, defining engagement is an individual kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Or in this case, I imagine that to be a group thing. But from your perspective, you having dealt with that crazy night, and I remember we spoke that day.
I literally called you.
Yeah, we were. I don't know if we were planning on chatting or whatnot, but I think I had said to you, "Hey man, safe travels." You had mentioned that you'd be flying or that you were going to be traveling.
Right.
I said, "Safe travels, man. Say word when you end up landing. I hope everything's good." And you had messaged saying, "Hey, remember when you said everything's good? Everything was not. Everything is not.
Everything's not okay.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not okay." And so we chatted that night, and I remember hearing you say all this, thinking to myself, I hope he's honest with whoever he speaks to and just says, look, here's what's happened. So, I might just need a couple extra seconds here or there to really just put my thoughts together and give you guys as clear an understanding as I possibly can of what I hope to accomplish by being here,
right.
Whatever the case was. But on the flip side of that coin, I look at it and I say, corporate America is a beast the same way that any corporate enterprise is a beast, in the sense that so now think back to what you'd said earlier, best of the best. Mm-hmm. You're the best of the best when you're on your shit, when you're on your game. Mm-hmm. But if you're off your shit and you're off your game, all of a sudden that level that you've leveled up to might not be where you are.
Right.
And this isn't because you don't want to be. It's just because your body and your mind
are not there. They're not.
Body, mind, and spirit are the 3 things that you have to keep in line. Mm-hmm. And if any one of them is off, the other 2 will suffer. And in this case, it seemed like you had 2 of them that were off.
Right.
Your body and your mind. So your body, obviously, from just the travel and the lack of comfort and the lack of rest and all this kind of shit. Your mind for the same reason. You hadn't had any sleep. You weren't firing on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. So your spirit is naturally gonna take a hit. Just to try to play devil's advocate, I would argue that their stance and their position on saying you weren't engaged was likely coming from the fact that you were not functioning / firing the way that you normally would.
Right.
And so there's almost a validity to what they would say. Just kind of taking the flip side of this coin. I think there's likely a validity. I know anytime that you have said to me, oh man, this was a crazy night, I'm exhausted, whatever. Mm-hmm. I know you well enough to know that I hear it in your voice. Mm-hmm. And I hear it even in not just your voice, but I hear it in the way that you express yourself. It changes. And I think that's true of every human. It's not just exclusive to you, it's all of us. But I wonder, they may not know you to the degree that I know you, or some of our other friends, our mutual friends and things like that. But they also know people because they interview people all the time.
Right.
So they likely picked up I guarantee you, and I'm only saying this to try to add a little bit of solace to the fact that there likely was some validity to what they were saying.
I absolutely agree. It is hard to be engaged when you're awake for 26 hours.
Yeah.
By the end of the interviews, I was awake for 30 straight.
Mm-hmm. That'll catch up to you.
Yeah, man. So, fun fact, when I was taking psychology back in JUCO, after 24 hours, your body starts taking micro sleeps.
Like on its own?
Yeah, like naturally, because it has to, because it's like it can't run constantly on full cylinders.
Right.
And that's what my body was starting to do. So, like, my brain's literally not fully functioning by definition. My body's literally trying to go to sleep at every opportunity. Yeah. I even asked for for a coffee during the interview. I was like, guys, I'm tired.
So you were honest.
I was honest, yeah. And what irritated me too, because I spoke with one of the other VPs there, and I had met him before. He was like, "This company is about people, right? We're very focused, people first, people first. Yeah, the products and the money, obviously that's important, but we are a people first company." And I was like, "Wow, you're really kind of showing your ass. You're people first, but you can't acknowledge the fact that somebody's not engaged because they've been awake for 30 hours.
Yeah.
It's kind of there was give and take to it." Because,
Right.
yes, you are right. But, get the stick out of your butt.
This
right?
hurts.
Right. Which, I mean, it led me to what I'm doing now and working for a Canadian tech company.
Nice.
Remember the thing I said, I don't want to work for corporate America?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
working for corporate Canada.
you took a little bit of a detour, just a slight detour.
Right. And how I got that is actually my buddy from video games. He said, "Hey, you built your own computer, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." It's like, "Well, mechanics enough, and you're willing to learn, and you're smart. Do you want this job?" And I was like, "Does it pay?" And he was like, "Yeah." Deal.
Easy decision at that point.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, that's what I'm doing now. I'm flying all across the country. I fly to Houston Monday, Austin Tuesday, DC Wednesday,
Yeah. It's a lot of mileage, man.
New Jersey Thursday, Minnesota Friday.
Jeez.
And then I go to Memphis, Tennessee, I think the following Monday.
After having just left Canada.
Yeah. So my flight into Tulsa Sunday night gets there at 9:38. No delays.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about a rental car sleeping in the airport this time because my
Right.
truck's there.
Nice. Park and ride, baby.
Right. I will get home at around 10:45, 11 o'clock. I will wake up at 3 to go right back to the airport.
Oh, jeez. Does it make sense to just stay at the airport at that point?
I have to go home. Tools.
Ah, you got to go collect the goods.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's when this stretch of travel begins?
Yeah.
That's when you
so-
end up starting to hit all these different places?
And then as of right now, I'm scheduled to work on Thanksgiving.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
That shouldn't come as a surprise.
Well, yeah, because I'm the new guy.
Yeah. FNG, baby.
Right. Such a joke. But here's the thing. I mean, dollar signs.
Yeah.
Where I will be working, I'm not far from home. At the end of the world, I can go work that morning.
Yeah.
Hopefully I do it quick enough. And then I can go home, eat some turkey.
So important question. Towards the tail end of your time at Texas Roadhouse, you felt that the enjoyment that you had experienced once upon a time was kind of a time past. And now you're at the beginning of something very, very new. Do you feel any semblance of similarity in your enjoyment in this new role as what you felt in your role at Texas Roadhouse in the beginning? Or do you think it's too early?
So it's a little different because some of the stuff I do know. Right, like
Oh, rather than when you went into Texas Roadhouse, you just didn't know anything.
nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I knew how to fill up a cup,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I knew how steaks were cooked,
Right.
but like specific terminology and stuff I didn't know, which I'm having to learn that again. But also too, so for example, we had dinner with the CEO. So it was a table of 8 people. It was me, a white American. Next to me was a Pakistani guy. Next to him was a guy from the Dominican. Next to him was my immediate boss, who's another guy from Cincinnati. He's the one that does all the dispatches, buys all my flights, right?
Okay.
Across from him was a guy from Trinidad. Next to him was the CEO, and she's originally African,
Okay.
like African Indian. I don't want to say the country because I don't remember,
Okay.
but like born in Africa.
Yeah.
Next to her is a Black Canadian, and then next to him is a guy from Asia.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you the country,
Right.
right? To tell you the diversity of this business,
Yeah, that's a huge, that's a wide gamut of different experiences, different cultures, all these different things.
I'm one of 4 Americans, right?
Yeah.
So say I'm on the phone with one of the other technicians, and they're trying to explain something to me. So like, for example, we have an Albanian team. Prime example. So I was in, Oklahoma City last Friday. And I said, "Hey, I got the machine up and running. Can you just check on it, make sure it's connected, and watch it for 10 minutes?" "Yeah, no problem." Click, right? And I'm talking to the point of contact, right? And then I got a message from him. "Everything good until now." And I was like, "Wait, what's wrong?" No. Everything's good until now. Well, everything was good until this moment. What is not good, right? And he was like, no. Well, you're good. You can leave. And I was like, cool. All right. Peace. Right. And then he like reiterated and he literally repeated the sentence again. So like language barrier, right?
I don't think that's a language barrier so much as it is just a cultural thing. We
Right.
we spoke about this a little bit
Right,
earlier.
right,
and,
right.
you know, my dad has said stuff like that where I've had to do a double take because I just don't get
Right.
what he means. And he speaks perfect English. It's just the words that he's choosing to use. And I know if he said that in Hindi, it would make a lot more sense. So I had the added benefit of just being able to know where his thought process is coming from. So I wonder if that's the case here too, is that there's a cultural influence or a language influence that's coming from a
guarantee it.
different culture, right?
But so like also too, so I agreed on the contract, I think October 1. I flew out to Tucson, Arizona, October 3.
It was quick.
My contract started October 10.
Jeez.
I mean, I got paid for that day. But like I'm on the phone with a guy from Albania, and he's trying to explain things to me, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. You know, hey, unplug from the micro tick and plug it into the serial hub. I don't know what the micro tick or the serial hub. I don't know where they are, what they look like.
Yeah.
You know.
They kind of just got you started right at the gate with very,
Right.
very little lead time.
Right. So that's what I'm learning now. So some of it I do understand, like how things connect, because I mean it's basically a computer on the inside, right?
Okay.
But it's more like terminology, how things connect, how certain systems work.
Yeah.
Which that's why I was in Canada this week. I was getting that official training. So now at minimum, right? So I get to a site and I say, hey, here's what's up. And they ask me to do something or check something. I, at minimum, know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
right? In theory, I should be able to figure it all out by myself. Not always the case because, you know, remember, I'm the new guy,
Yeah.
right? But that was the purpose of this week, right? But definitely different from the Roadhouse thing.
Yeah, of course.
But ideally, it's going to get to the point where, you know, being really good at what I do is, hey, I'm on site, click, fix it quickly. Hey, I'm leaving, click. That's the ideal, right?
Well,
That's the excellence.
Yeah, and I feel like you getting back to that level of proficiency is something that you're going to really enjoy.
Right.
Because there was a certain level of proficiency, efficiency, and excellence that existed within your role at Texas Roadhouse. And that took a little while for you to get there. Right? You had time to grow into that role. And not just grow into that role, but grow into what you wanted to be in that role. And then, of
Right.
course, kind of pivot and start taking on other responsibilities and moving around moving around the restaurant, moving around the store. And I imagine the same thing's going to happen here.
Except I'm going to be doing it in like Houston, Texas.
I was going to say, I think
New Hampshire.
this isn't you going from, for example, front of house to bar. This is you going from one state to another,
Right.
to another, in some case, and in this case, another country. So there's a little bit more of a macro sort of influence on this side, but it's exciting nonetheless, man. Best wishes. I can't wait to hear how this all unfolds.
I'm excited. Just, I mean, new mountain to climb.
Yeah, of course.
New mountain to climb. New level to beat.
Yeah, not just new level to beat, but I think new level to just experience. I don't think beating the level is, and this is the age-old sort of thing where it's not the destination, it's the journey, right?
Right.
Leveling up is going to come naturally, but every time you level up, you're going to see the next stage of where you want to go. It's just never going to stop.
Right.
As long as you're continuously pursuing it, you're good. So in this case, just watching you go through this is going to be pretty exciting. This is a huge departure, though, from your chem background.
From my chem background, right.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's going to be, I mean, I don't know the nature of the company, but do you feel there will be an influence at some point where you get to jump back into what you loved about chem? Or is this kind of a little bit more removed?
In this company?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Totally removed?
Not
kind of
even
thing?
close.
Okay.
Because this is all like IT software,
Right.
mechanical stuff.
Yeah. But also something that you enjoy.
Right. I mean, like, I built my computer because,
You like it.
you know, this is my computer. Why should I have somebody else put it together? Right. So, and then B, a hill to climb, right?
Yeah.
If I can put my computer together, I can use it, right? Kind of like driving somebody else's vehicle.
Right.
Like, why would I want to drive your car everywhere and call it mine?
In this case, you can make this yours.
make it mine, right? Like in high school, my parents bought me a beater truck, and then I put a giant dent in the door like a doofus. Funny story about that. So it's
Did you just walk up to it and smack your head against it?
no.
Is that what actually happened?
So I lived on a ranch, as you know. It was a 1998 Dodge 1500 half ton, right? Transmission. So we bought it. Transmission was out of it. Like it would start and it'd go nowhere. Like you could hit the gas all you want, put it in any gear, and it wouldn't go anywhere. So that's how we got a big deal out of it. So bought a new transmission, stuck it in there.
Because it didn't work.
Because it didn't work, right? And then I was going to a game practice. I don't remember, right? But I was leaving the house. And I got told, hey, swing the gate on your way. And this gate's, from this corner to that corner, right? It's a huge gate,
Yeah.
right? And it's old, rusty, because it's been sitting out and it rains,
Right.
And I was smart and lazy. I was like, so the gate was sitting perpendicular to the road.
Yeah.
But I could fit my truck on the gap where it wasn't covering the road, so I could just. So what I was
Speed
going
right
to do,
through.
I was going to just put it in drive and let the truck just roll. And I was going to grab the gate and then push it. And
I
then
can
it was
see where
gonna
this
swing.
is going. I can see where this is going.
So I grabbed it and I pushed, and it went nowhere. And I went, And then I felt, my arm doing this right here.
Yeah.
So I let go because, pain and the door.
Human.
Then I heard a big crunch.
Oh, no. And it smacked the hell out of the truck.
Oh, it left a nice. I'll show you here in a little bit.
Okay.
But like it wasn't my truck, right?
Yeah.
I was like, dang, that sucks. Anyway, right? But like now, if I do something like that to my current truck, I would be beside myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so normally I have a knife in my pocket, right? And in college, I lived in this tight parking garage. So trying to open the door and get in the truck, I'm facing the door, open it, and go to turn to put my butt in the seat, right? Well, that clip would hit the side of the truck, and there's like 5 scratches
Oh, jeez.
cutting the paint.
From the knife.
And I was upset about it,
Yeah.
as I should be, because it's my truck that I paid for. Nobody else has their name on the title.
Yeah.
Same thing with like the computer. Something happens to that computer, which I've spent more money than I should have on it. I'm gonna be pretty upset, right?
That's I feel like it's a condition of building. So I mentioned this to you when you got here. We chatted a little bit about career stuff and had a little powwow, a little heart to heart that way. And I told you I've seen 6 years worth of setbacks with my
Right.
professional career, and I feel that. I feel that this is something I built. I built a business from scratch. I did it at a time where I didn't know how to build it. It was that whole flying a plane as you're building it kind of thing.
Right.
And I had seen along the way, I had seen my altitude start dropping big time, and I would course correct it and I would spike higher. This has been the first time where I've hit the ground. And to see all of the work that went into everything that I built over this whole course of time, to see it get set back the way that it has been absolutely fucking heartbreaking.
Right.
But I look at it and I say, well, I have 2 choices, or I have one choice. The only choice that I have is to keep going. The
Right.
other choice I don't even feel the other choice of let it go. It's okay. Like, no, I'm
You've got too much money in the
beyond-
plane.
It's not even just the money in the plane, man. I have too much of me in the plane. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into building that. It's the only thing that I ever felt I had a proficiency with to the degree that I felt excellence, because I was really fucking good at it. And I
Right.
still am really good at it. It's just something that I pivoted out of, as a result of the pandemic and things like that. I pivoted out of where I was. And watching it now all come to fruition, these last 2 years, I took on another project that was life-changing at the time, and it was supposed to continue being life-changing. And instead I shouldn't say it hasn't been life-changing. It has. It's just been life-changing to some degrees to a detriment. But the detriment of this change is something that I think is making way for and paving a path to something much, much bigger. It's just uncomfortable as hell. And as I said, it's just heartbreaking. Because the money part of it, yeah, that's a very, very important aspect. But the bigger piece of it is when you start feeling, so I can relate when you say you worked at Texas Roadhouse and you loved what you were doing, and then all of a sudden you just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It can be soul crushing. It can be all these things. When your soul has left the building, your ass should too.
Right.
In this case, my soul got thrown out the building, and then my ass got kicked out the building, but I was still holding on, like flailing in the wind, trying to keep everything going.
Mm-hmm.
So, the whole building the plane as it kind of goes. My wrench was in the cockpit. My tool, the rest of my tool bag, my hammer, everything else I do, a screwdriver,
Right.
screws, ladder, everything was in the middle of the plane. My lunch was in the back. Shit was just, it got so messy.
Right.
And I am beyond fortunate, beyond privileged, beyond lucky to have the people in my life that I have. Yourself included, Anessa, Gabe, Serge, Constanza, all of these people, Willis, JC. These people have done more for me than I will ever be able to thank them for. And for all of the ways that I felt I was left heartbroken as a direct result, and this is all recent, this is all within the last week and a half, for all the ways that I feel absolutely heartbroken and devastated as a result of where I've seen some of my efforts go and where I've seen some of my efforts fall, I've found that I've not really had much of a family,
Mm-hmm.
or at least that's the way that I've felt for the majority of my life. And the more and more I look at the way that a lot of these people end up supporting me without ever even asking for anything in return. Not that that should be a prerequisite for helping someone that you care about, but the help is not just, hey, I think you can try this. The help is, we can do this. We can do that. Maybe we can do that. They always take an inclusive approach to what's very, very individual. And so I said, Gabe specifically, this really, really good buddy of mine, I said to him at one point, he's always been prepared to help. And I said to him, I said, Gabe, you weren't there when I made some of these decisions. You cannot bear the weight of some of these consequences. And I don't mean you cannot as in you are incapable. I'm saying you cannot because I will not let the consequences of decisions that I have made fall on anyone's shoulders other than my own. And
Right.
that's just who I am, and that's who I want to be. So when I said earlier, the day a man realizes that nobody is coming to save him is the day that he actually becomes one. I've had these realizations multiple times over in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that was with personal life in terms of relationships past or, and I don't just mean relationships romantically, I'm talking relationships past as in family, friends, also romantic relationships, whatever it might be. Those things have always served as reminders that you must live as open door a life as you possibly can, where you make room for the people that want to enter your life and stay. You make room for them to enter and stay. And the people who need to leave your life, you make room for them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But I never before applied it to myself. And this was a weird dichotomy for me because I said, how do I make room for myself to enter my own life? And how do I make room for myself to leave my life? It's not me entering or leaving. It's versions of me entering and leaving. And I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. There's a reason that I'm bringing it up. The psychology, the shift in my psychology that I have felt as a direct result of some of what's happened over this last week and a half has led me to believe that much of what I thought I was doing correctly, much of what I thought I was proficient with, much of what I felt very, very confident with, were exactly the things that I needed the most work on. And this realization, when I talk about being heartbroken as a direct result of some of this, it's come from that. It's come from this realization of I have built something that I thought was monumental and ignored something that was significantly bigger. So I built this monumental business and I ignored call it self-care in a lot of ways. And the ways in which I ignored that self-care are now rearing their ugly head in ways that I thought I would be okay with, and it just fucking tanked me. So I say all this, this is kind of, I'm all over the map with why I'm kind of explaining this. I'm
Right.
explaining it just because it's something that I wanted to share. I've said this, people have heard me say this on the podcast a bunch of times. I would rather stand in front of a room of 1 million people and share my losses and talk about my failures, talk about the missteps, the falls, the fuck ups. I'd rather talk about all those things than talk about any wins. And right now, when I look at a lot of what's happened over the last little while, it feels like a biblical fuck up. It feels proportionately so outweighed in its innate feature set of being a failure than any of my successes have ever felt. And it's because, like, so now coming full circle, this little analogy of yours of every time you pivoted and got into the truck, and this knife on your pocket scratched the side
truck,
of the door.
right.
That's how I feel right now, where I have had all these pivots of turning and getting into a role that, because I've built this all on my own.
Right.
This is not corporate Canada. This is not corporate America. This is not corporate anything. I built the structure myself. I managed it myself. I succeeded myself and I failed by myself. And unfortunately, right now, in my mind, this is a failure. But I view it now as more of an opportunity to fix some of those scratches. These aren't scratches. These are fucking.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know how to do this. I just walked up with a baseball bat and smashed my own business to some capacity. And now I'm looking at working up the dents and smoothing things out. The whole point of sharing this is that preparing yourself to level up is nowhere near as important as preparing yourself to get better in the level that you're in. Because there's so much work that you can do where you are, and there's always ways to improve where you are, that looking up to, for example, level 2, level 3, level 10, level 1,000, whatever it is in your mind, is a beautiful way for you to continue pursuing excellence, but don't do it at the expense of bettering yourself where you are. Find stability where you are, which is where I think I misstepped. Find stability where you are. Build a foundation on something that is stable. Another part where I think I misstepped. And when you need to pivot, recognize that you need to pivot without letting your pride get in the way. And that was my biggest fuck up. Was that I think I let pride get in the way.
So, as you were talking there, so many things just popped in my head, like 6 things, and I think I've already lost like the first 2. That last one there, if you're too busy looking at, for example, say level 2, right? Flying a little too close to the sun. I believe it's Icarus, right?
Yep. Burnt his wings.
Burnt his wings, right? He was too focused on going higher than focusing on where he was.
Yeah.
Right. Also, to your plane analogy, your plane's hit the ground. You're going to bounce, you're going to crash.
Yeah.
You're going to let go of the joystick, you're going to pull up.
Yeah, and this is where you have to evaluate things with as clear ahead as you can. It's easier said than done because the emotions are always running high when you're dealing with something like this.
Right.
But the pivot that I've had to make was not only pulling up, but letting part of it go. And letting part of it go was like we're talking it was a wing. Just to be clear, we're talking I just let go of a wing.
You got to shed some weight.
Yeah, I let go of a wing.
To get the bird back in the air.
And I let go of probably 2 of the 4 engines that I had on this thing. And,
right.
I'm course correcting as I can. It's a huge hit, huge hit, and I could have the worst part is that I could have done this months back. I could have done this pivot months back, but I was looking at it saying no, I got this.
You were looking at level 2.
Yeah. I was looking at it saying no. It's doing so. The same time that when I mentioned a little bit earlier where I said there have been these dips where I've lost a little bit of altitude and then I've come back higher than I was before. The behavior and the performance of the past is not a confirmation of behavior and performance of the future.
True.
And that's been a hard lesson to learn. Hard pill to swallow. Slap in the face. We can insert any number of things that we can here.
Right,
There's tons of them. But that's the piece that, for all the ways that I used to think about that with respect to the equities market and things like that, I'd say, past performance of a particular company is no dictator of future performance. You have to take everything in strides. You have to understand that you cannot rest assured in today, you cannot rest assured in tomorrow based on something today. It just doesn't make any sense. And so, anyway, all this to say, these are lessons learned, and I say all this specifically just because you talk about leveling up and excellence and all these things, and it's exciting as hell to see you jumping into a career that I think has been probably screaming for somebody like you, and it seems like the team I think probably needed somebody like you as well.
So another takeaway that I thought of while you were talking a second ago, You're talking about friend group. You have your your nuclear family, mom, dad, brother, sister, right? That's not the family you chose, it's the family you have. It is the group of people that genetically are always going to think most like you. Are always going to emotionally and psychologically react most similarly to you, right? Then you have your second family, the people you choose to be around. You, for example, right? You're part of my second family, right? And in those instances where you get knocked down in the ring or your plane hits the ground, right? You've fallen. That is where no man, when a man realizes no one's going to come save him, it really doesn't hurt to have somebody help you stand up, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I literally thought this to myself. So me and my buddy have kind of done a reversal of positions in the last 6 months, right? Or actually in the last 10 months now. Before, I was the one that, like, I didn't worry about money. Like, it was not a concern. And he was, like, pinching pennies. Now we've somewhat flipped, but I'm now rebuilding my my baseline capital, right? Because I have this salary job and so on. I remember thinking to myself, if this group of people, right, I listed it was probably about 7 people. I was like, if they said, hey, I need $2,000, I'd have said, here you go, no questions asked. Right? You need friends like that.
Yeah.
That say, hey, you need to crash in my house for 5 months? Cool. Here's your bed.
Yeah.
You need those friends that can help you do that. Right?
Yeah.
You need that second family. Of course, your first family is there, but that second family is always critical because those are the people that you choose. It also shows you something about yourself because you choose to surround yourself with this group of people.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think of this second family as being way more my first family than anyone else. The people that I mentioned earlier, Andrew, for anybody who's watched some of the other ones. Andrew's been with me, man. Like, fuck. When I think of it, we were telling you about him. Myself and Anessa were telling you about him when we were walking here. I said I mispronounced the guy's name once, like a couple months back. I called him Andro.
Oh yeah,
Andro, and the running joke was that sounds like a Jetsons dog. And so I sat there and I went, I was like, wait, Androbot? Bark, bark, bark. And like that just became a thing. And like the guy, he lost it. He laughed so fucking hard when he heard me just go bark. When I said bark, 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 he just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. But I mean, that guy, when I think of the support that I've gotten in my personal life, in my professional career, support just across the board, that guy he's been with me in some cases way more distanced than I'd like, only because of the physical distance between us in some cases. But as far as him wanting to do everything that he can to contribute to my success and contributing to just me bettering my own life. Success I talk about on the professional side, and then when I say bettering my life, I'm talking on the personal side. When I think about the ways that he has contributed, when I think of the way that, all those people that I mentioned earlier, Constanza, Serge, Willis, JC, Gabe, when I mentioned all these people, they've all done that. And they do it with zero hesitation. They just continuously do everything that they can to contribute to my life. So for all of the ways that this has been a wild, wild struggle and a dark, dark time, I find so much brightness, so much light, so much love, so much unconditional support from people in some cases that I haven't even met face to face.
Right.
And so I'm very, very aware, very, very appreciative, incredibly grateful to have the wildly high quality humans in my life that I do. And then taking kind of a step back from that and now rewinding to you and I having connected through, in my mind, a stupid little game that has...
Stupid space game,
Yeah, stupid space game, That's what we call it all the time. Like, you've seen me butcher the names on, intentionally, on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Every opportunity that I get.
So the funny thing about that, though, is you can say snake face. I know exactly
what you're
that is.
Yeah, I've
you
ruined
just
people.
pictured him.
I've ruined people, right?
Right.
Like, where I just say these stupid names of characters because I never remembered their names early on. And I look at the friendships that have been forged as a result of that stupidity.
Right.
And I say, for as stupid as it was, as stupid as the conditions were for those friendships to be built, they're so fucking real.
Right.
They are the realest friendships. So, you mentioned Cobus earlier. Think of all of the people that we run stuff with. Cobus, Dirg, Tiger, Caesar. Caesar's funny because Caesar, his name in game is Caesar.
But his actual name is
His
Caesar.
name is actually Caesar. And I remember thinking, I was like, Caesar, that's wildly dark. And so he sent me a picture in Paint, in Microsoft Paint, with his face and a sun around it. He didn't say a word. He didn't react. He didn't defend himself. Nothing. Just sent me that picture.
You just said, that's kind of dark.
That's dark, fam. Yeah.
And then 3 minutes later.
Yep. He sent me this, and he was making like a stupid face in the picture.
Right,
That's
right.
just his character. But him, who did I meet? Tanner.
Seth.
Seth. Yeah. Like, man, these guys. It's the part that is bittersweet in my mind is that these are people that I have felt I have a closer relationship to than some people that I've known, in real, IRL,
Right.
for years and years and years.
A white girl.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, my beautiful hair and my pumpkin spice latte. Yeah, I'm the epitome white girl here. So, yeah, these people, these guys, and these gals. I mean, Bryn's in there and stuff too. There's a bunch of people that I'm sure
Right.
you know. I don't know if you've run anything with Christina, Sarah, Megan, all them, but
I don't know. I've run stuff with Bryn, but
anyway, all this to say, there's these guys and gals. These are relationships that are built on something so superficial, gaming.
yeah.
It's something that's so unproductive. But the relationships that have been forged as a direct result of it are, like I said earlier, they're so real that every so often I find myself stopping and laughing at the fact that we have this Discord channel. And I say we in a very calculated manner, in a very intentional
Very
manner.
true.
I handpicked everybody who's in there, and then they brought their own handpicks, their own selections. And we watched this community go from 5 to 50. And it's not and I don't want it to be some massive kind of thing, but we look at these 50 people, and I know that at any point in time, if I run a voice chat or something and these people join, I know I'm going to laugh
Right.
with
that's
every
right.
single one of them. And I know, or on the flip side of that, I know that if I need to bring something up, if they need to bring something up, the conversation that we would have based on just the relationship that we've built almost passively would be one that was very active. A relationship that means something, a conversation that means something.
Well, also too, you got to think. So, like, video games are literally the escape from the real world.
Right.
Right. You get to run around and shoot space monsters with laser guns.
Yeah.
Right.
Pew pew lasers.
Pew pew lasers. Right. And also too. So one thing I've noticed and I love about our community, and even dance community too, is like we forget politics, we forget economics, we forget everything.
Yeah.
We are there to shoot space monsters and have a good time. Right.
Yeah.
And then also too, from that,
Or sometimes shoot each other.
Tanner, when you're in the menu.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Beside the point. But also too, you have such good times with those people, you and me, Seth, Dirk, Tiger, and then we talk about real things. And also too, like sometimes you don't get to have an outlet or vent
Yeah.
about certain things. Like, for example, you're talking about with Dirk in work, right? You're talking to him in Hindi, things that you're not just going to talk about in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And you can have that private conversation. Maybe certain people don't have that outlet, right? At home, or maybe they live by themselves and the only people they see are at work,
Yeah.
right? Having that outlet to talk about, just to vent sometimes. You just need to let that out. And it's just an awesome space for that. Like, people say video games are stupid. Yes, you are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Do I still want to get Pinnacle gear? Yes.
Fucking.
Do I
Pinnacle
still
gear.
want to get Touch of Malice? Yes.
Yeah.
Does it help me in any way, shape, or form?
Absolutely not.
Well, it helps me shoot space monsters.
Well, it helps you in the sense that all of those interactions that we have with each other are real.
exactly.
And the social element associated with us going through all of this mundane, completely unproductive, useless sort of shit is, I mean, there's a flip side to every coin, right? That's the easiest way to say it. Flip side to every coin. For all of the ways that we could sit here and talk shit about, oh, it's unproductive, it's this, it's that. Arguably, it's very productive, very this, very that, because of the fact that we end up coming out of this with relationships that mean something.
Exactly.
And so I feel like it low-key sounds like I'm kind of defending us playing a video game.
Right.
But I look at it and I say, all of the times that I have gone out with friends to a movie, to a dinner, to whatever else, this feels almost more valuable because of the laughs, because of this, because of that, because of the fact that there's a distance that none of us like.
Right.
Geographically, there's a distance that none of us like. We share as much as we can with each other as far as our lives are concerned. And, I built that little, what did I call it? Ears of yesterday instead of eyes of tomorrow. I called it, very few people will probably get that reference. But anyway, I created this music channel for some of the people in the squad to just share tunes that they like, so we could learn a little bit more about what music we're into. And then our Animal Friends channel, where people can share shots of like their pets and things like that. Iron Chef, the food channel, where people can make meals. Some of them look terrible, but others look just absolutely on point.
Oh, right.
Right? And so...
I'm going to make some dino nuggies and put it on there.
Dino nuggies for the win.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. For as distant as those relationships are, they feel as close as I need them to be.
Right.
And I look at even us. I appreciated our relationship before all this. And I said it to you, I think we're like maybe this morning or something. It's kind of hard to believe that you only got in yesterday.
Right.
But I said it either yesterday or today, where I said this doesn't feel like a first chit chat. This feels like just a very, very real extension and very real continuation of all of the discussions that we've had over the course of a year and a half. And so now it's, I look at it and I say, well, we're going to get Seth in that chair. We're going to get all the other guys in that chair at some point. And whether it's here or whether it's somewhere else, I don't really care. But I'm excited to share this not only with them, not only with all the other people that I mentioned, but with everybody else who would listen. And I'm hoping, I've shared this with you a little bit, but my intention here is just to share whatever I can with people in hopes that it frees up their time so that they can make their own mistakes instead of making the same ones that I did, the same ones that you did, the same ones that anybody else who comes through here did, and gives them an opportunity to not just learn from people that our paths would never have crossed unless we started playing a game together. My path with so many others wouldn't have crossed if I didn't do this one little thing. The butterfly effect is very, very real. And I want to share that with as many people as I can, and bringing people like yourself in to share their own experience and talk a little bit about the life that they live is, I think, the single best way for me to do that, and the single best way to try to get other people into a position where they can relate to people that they otherwise would never meet or might never have the chance to meet.
Right.
I hope that makes sense.
Which, it's funny you mentioned that. So how we met was through Dan.
Yeah.
In a long roundabout way, right? How I found Dan, I literally went to the Destiny 2 categories on Twitch. I just started scrolling.
And you found one.
I was like, who's this large black guy? Click.
He's
playing raids with people.
He's a compassionate guy, man. He's a very, very, he's such a loving dude.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Super patient.
Yeah, very patient.
He'll get frustrated, but like he's there to complete the task at hand. His
frustration is never, it's never expressed towards or against anybody who is there with him. It's always a frustration that it's almost like he bears the weight of it himself, and just like you're saying, he just powers through.
Right. It's funny now, like having talked to him a lot, like you can see when he's frustrated.
Yeah,
just kind of knowing the guy a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's awesome what he does.
Still one of the most inclusive. The guy is all about bringing people together, and I admire, appreciate, and respect him for that more so than anything else. And the interactions that I've had with him, many times that he's tagged me in to help with, like when people were running Fatebringer, when we did Mate Finger, when we did these, that's a good name for it. We did these little, these community runs for something, and the guy didn't give a shit who was coming through. He just wanted people to come through.
Yeah.
And he would always, he always made sure to tell everybody, hey, make sure you get your names in, make sure to queue up. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to make sure that everybody gets through. Like, the guy was just all about community. And that was when I felt the flavor of it much earlier, but that was when I saw it firsthand because I was a part of it.
Right.
I was there. I helped him for whatever that was, 4 or 5 hours straight kind of thing. And that was enough for me. That was way more than enough for me.
Right.
But I appreciated the fact that I got to be a part of what this guy's doing regularly
for
a community that is built up largely of people who oftentimes he never even hangs out with, never chats with, nothing, but he just wants to help.
He might play with them once, never play with them again, but he's happy for that one time.
That community is the real deal.
Oh, for sure.
And the people that you and I have been able to meet as a result of that community are also the real deal.
Oh, did you see? He got community focus
I did
by
see
Bungie.
a little while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he deserved it. It was well
As he
deserved.
should've.
I think the only thing that I would complain about is that he deserved it
Long
way,
time
way,
before
way,
that, yeah.
way long ago. But if that was his path and that was what they wanted to see before they were going to do that, I'm easy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'm sure the people who were a part of that community appreciated it as well.
Mm-hmm.
All of this to say, this whole conversation has been an absolute honor, man.
Yeah, I
I'm
think we're
so
over time
glad.
by like 20, 30 minutes.
That's okay. That's okay. This is one that's been long overdue for a year and a half.
This is true.
So as far as I'm
true.
concerned, if we wanted to make it up on the back end, that's okay.
We can work on
But-
that.
Yeah. So we'll have to. I hope you'll be coming back through at some point.
Right.
I'd love for us to be able to pick up where we left off. I think you might be coming through relatively early. I'm not going to throw out a
Maybe.
date just yet, but if it ends up happening, you have to keep me posted.
Oh, I will.
Now you've at least seen the space, right?
Right.
Cool spot. You know it's real. I'm not just making it up. It's not just a figment of my imagination.
Right.
It's very, very real. And yeah, man, thank you so much for making the time. Thank you so much for hopping on that train.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, dude. Thanks for paying for the ticket.
Anything to get you out, man. I mean,
Right.
you were too close for me to miss
not.
out. Yeah. And I couldn't do the drive back and forth, but
Mm-hmm.
I found an alternative to whatever capacity that I could. So we're gonna have to have you come back. Lots and lots of love, man, as always.
Right.
And I already kind of hate that you're flying out tomorrow,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I hate it. I'm not happy with it at all. But
Yeah, it blows.
I'm taking the day that we had today, and I'm using it to mask the clown tears, behind the
Right.
behind the departure of tomorrow.
Clown tears. You look like a clown. You are the clown.
I am indeed. I mean, my name's Laser Beam Sandwich
Right.
in games, so I'll happily wear that clown hat and and those ridiculous shoes. But again, man, continued success. Nothing but the very, very best your way. Can't wait to pick up where we left off, and we'll be. I'm sure. I mean, we're going to be talking more than I think we ever have as
For
a
sure.
result of this trip. So
sure.
thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing everything that you have, and I'm sure people are going to want to hear more. So we'll have you back soon.
It's a plan.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.